Hello, gentlemen. I think we are now live on Twitter and YouTube. First live stream.
GM. How we doing?
How's everybody doing? If you guys could give a quick retweet, I think it's on my Twitter. Pump up those numbers, then we'll kick it off.
Sec.
We are live directly on the timeline, though. I haven't seen anybody do this before.
I've never seen it either. And I feel like it's a very, very good way to stream content. So thanks for putting it together, Logan. I think it's a good idea.
I've been playing around with the content game for a while, so got a couple tricks up my sleeve.
Yeah, I feel like the live stream format is the most candid. It's the most like raw. It's the best for live discussion. And it also adds another layer of people being able to ask questions real time, which I think is awesome. It's much more interactive than podcasts. And yeah, no, I'm excited to be on the show with you guys. Maybe we want to just do a brief round of intros, who we are, what we're working on, and then we can get into some of the topics for today. So
let's do it. Kick it off, Legend.
I'll start it myself. My name's Diego, aka Soul Legend. Many people know me from the Solana ecosystem, but I'm a co-founder and managing partner at Frictionless Capital. We're a first check crypto VC firm investing in next generation blockchains. So kind of thinking past Bitcoin and Ethereum, these are chains with the ability to do parallel processing, high throughput, and minimal fees. So we really believe strongly this is where the vast majority of user and developer activity is going to take place. And that's why we're focused exclusively on it with the fund.
Cool. I can go next. My name is Logan Shrimsky, other part of Frictionless Capital and managing partner. I won't repeat what Diego said, but we're exclusively focused on high throughput blockchains. We think those uniquely enable unique applications that were not previously possible.
Cool. And yeah, I'm Kevin, intern, formerly known as CMS intern. I'm working to switch the @. So if Dan ends up seeing this, I promise you it's in the works. There's just some Twitter contact support that's going through. Yeah, I was previously at CMS Holdings for the last 2.5, almost 3 years, working on the venture side for basically the entire time. And yeah, recently, about a month ago, a little bit less than a month ago, I joined Monad, which is a new EVM L1 in the space. And I'm leading their ecosystem growth initiatives and helping out a bit on the marketing and meme side as well. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Great. And I'm looking at Twitter as well, and I think we're at 100 concurrent viewers just on Twitter watching. So good start to the stream.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I think direct to Twitter is really underrated. I know in the past there was a streaming service called Periscope, but that was sunset, I think around the same time as Vine. But I know Elon has plans to bring it back, but in the meantime, excited to be running these streams on a weekly basis. We're going to be chatting everything markets, dropping some alpha. We're going to be chatting about next generation architectures. I'd say that's kind of a structural focus of the show. But of course, there's no shortage of crazy events in crypto. It seems every day someone's getting, thrown in jail or liquidated, or some crazy new projects coming out or going away. So we're not going to have any shortage of topics. But today we wanted to hit on a few of the main ones that are kind of in the news. The first of which being Worldcoin. I think this is something, a project that's been in the making for quite some time. With the token launch today, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz. Many people are hearing about it for the first time today in true crypto fashion. They're asking if it's a good time to buy, is their first question. But yeah, maybe wanted to pass it to one of you guys if you want to just briefly say kind of what Worldcoin is. And yeah, we can go from there.
Yeah, I can give, I would say like the general average person understanding of Worldcoin. Yeah, it's basically the way that people know it is Sam Altman is the founder of it, who's also the founder of OpenAI, right? So a lot of people were thinking that this would be like an AI type coin. But the general thesis is that to get an actual good currency, it needs to be evenly distributed at the beginning. What's one way to do that? Scan people's eyeballs, because you only have one set. So everyone who scans their eyeball into the Worldcoin orb then receives, X amount of tokens, which is the same across the board. I don't know. I mean, people, it's like a very big meme, I feel like, right? Like everyone knows about it because it's such a ridiculous idea. But then a lot of people are like, no, this will actually work, right? So I think that it's a very, I don't know, it's a very attention grabby idea at the very least, right? Using biometrics to give people coins. It's like scan your eyeball and you get the airdrop. So I don't know. What are some of your guys' thoughts? Yeah.
I think it's pretty wild that the fully diluted valuation is already so high, 24, 28 billion. Seems a little high.
So I had a question around that. I don't know what the tokenomics structuring is, right? From just pure intuition, it would probably be anyone who scans their eyeball gets X amount of tokens, and those are the only tokens that exist, right? Like that's how it should be if they're trying to be completely like egalitarian. Is there like a bunch of tokens set aside for the foundation or something? Because then in my mind, right, say its FTV is $28 billion, and say it's $24 billion and there's 8 billion people, right? Your airdrop should only be $3 because there's 8 billion people who are lined up that should get it. I have no idea if that's accurate, but just like trying to think of what would make sense.
Yeah, I think in theory that's how it should work. But as we know, with these low float, high FTV tokens, many times there's kind of unlocks from early investors, and some of those are getting sold earlier today. So I think it's a little bit predatory on the surface of it at first glance, but definitely a bold idea. I mean, the concept of a PKI kind of network or database, I think is really cool. And I mean, thus far, I'd say the most widespread PKI data we have is mainly from like phones, right? From iPhones with kind of the face scan to unlock your phone and that sort of thing. But no one's ever tried this on a global scale, and it's much more accessible, right? Instead of having to buy a $1,000 device, you're getting paid, which is completely different. And I mean, $3 in the developed world is not a lot of money, but there's a lot of geographies where that's a non-trivial amount of money, and people are going to be extremely incentivized to scan their retina or get other people to scan their retina.
I was also just backing into and like half making up the $3 thing, right? It's like if it's 24 billion and you need to be able to drop it to 8 billion people, like it has to be capped at, like the FTV has to account for like 10 billion wallets, so to speak, right?
Maybe a question, slightly different topic. Each of you just came back from Paris. You were at ECC. I'm curious how each of you, some of the sentiments just from the conference, anything that you guys learned, and general vibes.
Yeah, sure. I'll go first real quick, then I'll pass it to Kevin. I think people are really excited. I mean, it's been a long bear market, but definitely a bigger turnout than I expected. It didn't feel like deep bear market. It feels like the green shoots of recovery are definitely on the way. And people seem much more motivated to fly out to a conference like this and kind of, spend the money, but also the time. And it was pretty high signal conversations across the board. I had a great dinner with Alex Kruger, the macro trader, and a bunch of his friends. I hit up a lot of side events, including the one from Monad, which is great. But yeah, I think generally speaking, it's still very infrastructure heavy. Not a lot of like super salient crypto applications that are user facing on the app layer. But that's also just partially kind of the stage of the cycle we're in. People are just kind of, retooling the infrastructure and trying to see, what they can enable in terms of new experiences and new applications.
Yeah, I would say I would echo what Soul Legend said, right? I think that there was a lot of excitement I feel like crypto events, the excitement is very price driven as well, right? And like this isn't nearly the highs that we've seen in crypto, but we're up pretty good off the bottom, right? So I think like people that are just generally excited. There's a lot of different narratives. There's a lot of like data availability talk, like bringing the modular blockchain thesis like out into the public. I didn't see any of the actual talks at the events, which I'm bummed. I tried to get into the Vitalik talk, but there was like a 2-hour line getting in. But yeah, I mean, a lot of my time was also just like in meetings, right? Like doing the actual work of it, which is good from an actual company point of view, but not good because I feel like anyone in Paris like missed out on the hamster racing, which really took over last week. And a lot of people did very, very well with it. So I wasn't as plugged into that, but I don't know if either of you followed the hamsters.
I showed my girlfriend the hamster racing, and she was like, "What is this?" And it was so entertaining. There was actually, I mean, you watch a couple of the hamsters. Some of them don't do anything; like they literally just stay there, and some of them like. It's funny just watching the comments for me. That's like half the fun.
It's pretty crazy how quickly a bunch of guys with a little racetrack and a camera can get people excited about something. I mean, the token was obviously like going up very rapidly in price, which I think brought a lot of interest, but it's pretty insane to me bringing these simple experiences on chain, whether it's a live stream or even recorded content, and giving some kind of speculative layer to it is really what like gets people super excited. And it's definitely a bear market if we're looking at hamster racing, and that's like the biggest thing on the timeline. But I think it's cool. I think the whole real world asset RWA space is super untapped, and you can truly bring things on chain, especially with a token, and get people excited about the crypto in ways that you simply cannot in Web 2.
Yeah, it is. It is fascinating. I don't know. I think anything that kind of keeps us entertained is good at this point in time, because there's a lot of things that, I don't know, crypto has been rough, just like the past year with FTX, with the stuff that went on with Luna, even like all the regulatory uncertainty. And so the fact that we can kind of continue to still have fun and play some of these kind of games, I think is good for everybody.
Yeah, I would say it's either very bear market times or very bull market times, right? Like I could definitely see people gambling like 5 figures during peak bull market euphoria, like spending like $500 on gas just to make sure that they get their bets in. Yeah, I mean, anything that is exciting and brings people in, like I've never seen this as a use case in crypto. I don't even know if you can call it a use case after last week. I think it was just like a bunch of like memeing and fun. Anything fun in crypto is good though, right? Like we definitely need more of that.
Yeah, no doubt. I think honestly, there's a great article by Chris Dixon. He basically says the next big thing starts out looking like a toy. And he goes into all these examples about how he wrote this article, I think back in 2011. It was like impossibly early, but he gives a bunch of examples of these little small technologies that, you know, no one thought anything of, even like NFTs or like telephone. When it came out, it was a 1 mile range and people were like, okay, cool science experiment or toy or whatever. But I think people underestimate the use cases that end up being developed. And I think at this point in the market, the biggest alpha I have for viewers is honestly just staying plugged in and paying attention. There's opportunities every week. And if it's hamster racing or podcasting or writing or whatever keeps you engaged, that's what you should be doing as much as you can just to stay plugged in.
Maybe to that point, staying plugged in, Elon has announced the rebrand of Twitter to X.com. He's always kind of hinted about his love for X. He had the domain name X.com for some time. And he says he wants to keep it like a super app. So I'm curious your guys' thoughts about the rebrand, how this affects Twitter, or even like some of the content where they're trying to get more content creators like this on the platform, streaming directly to Twitter. Some people I know got big checks. What are your thoughts on kind of direction Twitter is moving since Elon's takeover?
Yeah, I think honestly, really bullish. I mean, Elon, he doesn't just buy companies for fun. He clearly had some kind of grander vision. He even, replied or tweeted about it, I think, a bunch of months ago, where someone was basically asking, why isn't there an American version of WeChat, like the super app, where you can, order food or, play games or schedule a dentist appointment or anything. And I think that's too big of a market opportunity to give up, especially given that Twitter was, the opportunity to acquire Twitter was presented itself. And it's a great way to anchor one of these apps is with social. So WeChat started out as a messaging application and eventually built out a native ecosystem of, and all these types of apps, like literally, like I said, comic books to food delivery, dog walkers, like anything you can imagine was built inside the app. And honestly, Elon is very savvy, and he has a number of companies at this point that I think can add value to the super app, and a multi-sided platform just makes a ton of sense. I think on the surface of it, just enabling commerce and content creation, like you mentioned, Logan, in a more seamless manner is going to be big. And you guys have to remember also, Elon was a payments guy at heart from the beginning. With X.com, before it was called PayPal, he was very savvy and kind of trying to disrupt the payments industry, the banking, the traditional banking world and everything. So you can kind of see where he's heading with this. I'm just a little bit curious what role crypto plays in all of this.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's the perfect fit, right? I just think Elon has obviously Doge, loves a coin. He's always talked about it. He put Bitcoin on Tesla's balance sheet, right? I think in general, he dabbles in crypto, but he has some very real reasons that he's not like a full crypto guy, right? He's like, I am Tesla guy, SpaceX guy, and now Twitter guy. He's not a full-blown crypto guy outside of Doge. But yeah, I mean, it's a perfect place if he's trying to expand this. As he said, right, he wants this to be like 50% of the global financial system, which seems extremely, extremely ambitious. But that's his thing, right, is to shoot super high and go for it. And if he only makes it 20% of the way there, that'd still be a massive success. And then in the general X.com, I feel like we love Twitter just because it's been around for so long. We have CT, we have all of the culture that's kind of built in behind Twitter. But just from a pure branding standpoint, X.com it's so big, that's so powerful. I think long term it will be better, but it's the same with any iOS update or any update that any tech platform puts out. At first it gets a ton of hate and everyone's like, this sucks, why would you change the name? I feel like X.com has been kind of lukewarm. Some people like it, some are leave Twitter alone. But I think in the long term, right, that's X.com is a great brand. And if he's going to roll all of these other features into it, then it's only going to make it more powerful.
Logan, I'd love to hear your take, first of all, on the rebrand, but also on the content creation side as a content creator yourself. What's some of kind of the low hanging fruit that these guys can implement? I mean, Twitter, has kind of experimented with a lot of different products. They had Vine, they had Periscope for streaming. They've had many other things that have been sunset over the years. And I think what was really lacking was a big monetization focus and emphasis. There needs to be a reason to create content native to Twitter as opposed to YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, Kick, right? So what's kind of your take on all of this?
The content creation game's super interesting. I originally started doing it just to talk with more interesting people, interesting engineers. I think what I found out is there's lots of different ways to do content. You can have it more be personality based. I mean, the podcasting space is great, kind of focusing on your specific niche. I think more so though, the industry always moves super quickly. And so if you're not kind of on the current topic, on the current thing, or the latest news or latest trend, your viewers will kind of suffer. Or you can do like the very kind of in-depth route similar to Lex Friedman and just making the podcasts each about like those special individuals. But I would say there's the industry, because it is small, has a select group of those, and I feel like I've interviewed a majority of those people thus far. And so I think now it's kind of expanding, whether the content, the products, everything really related to crypto into the mainstream audience. And that, I think, is all about what the bear market and what we're actually doing today is focused on, is building for the masses and really taking crypto mainstream. I think content is one part of that, but the bigger part is actually getting like user applications that people really want to use.
Yeah, definitely. And I think almost like a stage approach for many people want to onboard users directly into kind of the CT Web3, full Web3 crypto native world that we live in. But I think it's a little bit hard to get people to make the full jump. Honestly, an application, like Xcom eventually, or, another similar like multi-sided platform probably has a much better chance of getting a significant amount of adoption quickly than, kind of the cold start from the crypto world. And I think Elon knows this. And I think if there's one thing Twitter excels at, it's very quick and timely news and trending. Things go trending on Twitter better than anywhere else. It really is like the trend platform. So, I think leaning into that from a financial sense, having timely information for traders, having the latest in front of everyone, is going to be very powerful when you incorporate that real time, information almost into people's lives, and you build other experiences around it, multi-layered experiences. I think that's, in my opinion, a little bit where these guys are heading. And I think it's really exciting.
Kevin, any updates on just how the transition though has been since you moved companies? Obviously, I think people know you from CMS, but now you're transitioning and in a new ecosystem. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've been working on?
Yeah, for sure. So like I said early on, I'm leading the ecosystem growth initiative at Monad. At CMS, I was doing basically all venture, right? So sourcing, diligencing, and then ultimately deciding where to invest from the venture or in a venture investment lens from CMS. Early ecosystem growth is actually very similar to what I've found so far, right? So the transition in terms of like the learning curve has actually been pretty quick, right? Like venture investment, you're looking for projects where you really believe in the vision, the team to execute on it, and obviously a whole number of other factors as well. Ecosystem growth and curation seems to be really similar from what I can tell. You're finding projects that you have a lot of conviction in, that you think take full advantage, in this case specifically, of like the different you take full advantage of the different applications that hang on, I messed this up here. You are looking to basically invest your time and energy in helping projects that are taking full advantage of what Monad enables tech-wise, right? So we do a lot of different things compared to like what current EVM chains are doing. A very easy comparison for people to kind of grab it, right, is like Solana enabled so many use cases that were never possible in crypto before. Or like having super high throughput on one chain. Like the first thing that everyone's familiar with was the initial Solana NFT boom. Legend, I know that's where like you kind of cut your teeth as well in the crypto space early on. But there was just never before a place where you could go in, everyone could like try to mint at once, essentially for free. Like the first time you go and actually use Solana as a user, you have this like holy shit moment where it's completely different from the feeling of Ethereum.
And I think, I mean, we kind of wanted to get into like this topic and wanted it to be a little bit of center of the show of just, I mean, Legend and I kind of describe it as you kind of had Bitcoin come in and really create the industry with self-sovereignty, and then you had Ethereum really expand upon that vision with smart contracts. And now, in our point of view, you're really getting to these like third generation of smart contract platforms where you're having kind of high throughput, where you're having parallelization. And again, it's like a much greater step up in performance that I think is noticeable to the end user. It is noticeable to engineers being able to create things like order books, being able to do high frequency transactions on chain, not have to really necessarily worry about gas fees. It opens up a big new possibility of what is actually possible to build on a blockchain that was not previously possible in kind of these earlier iterations. And so I think this is going to be like a super interesting topic for us to explore, and even in the future have on guests and chat with them and why they kind of built either the application or built on the certain architecture that they did. I think it will really unlock a new paradigm.
I completely agree. I feel like this point in the bear market is when, you know, people are kind of waiting for what's next. You know, everyone's asking themselves, what are the next themes, narratives, and products and applications that are gonna dominate next cycle, right? So, you know, clearly in 2021, it was, you know, a lot of NFTs, a lot of NFT-fi. You know, that I would say was one of the biggest trends. But next cycle, it's going to be something completely different. And I think really it's an extremely exciting time to be talking about next generation blockchains, because in many ways, kind of as you mentioned, Logan, the core innovations around Bitcoin, around, you know, a store of value or, you know, a hard digital commodity, and also just the magic of Ethereum, whether that's, you know, composability or tokenization, smart contracts, all these things. It's very hard to bring those kind of wonders of Bitcoin and Ethereum to the masses unless chains are much more performant. In other words, you can do, you know, transactions, you know, many transactions per second. The gas fees are very accessible to the point that it's, you know, a fraction of a penny. And this is truly how we're going to bring some of the wonders of blockchain, I think, to millions of people and tens and hundreds of millions of people and eventually billions, as opposed to right now where we have a relatively like small amount of people doing stuff on chain. But I think this is the most exciting time. And I guess, you know, that's why we're going to make it a big focus of the show, is to just peel the onion a little bit on what makes these blockchains different and why we think, you know, most builders and users are actually going to end up on next generation blockchains.
Yeah, and I think I think that it's worth pointing out, right, that it's very much a grow the pie type of vision and mission here. Like there is a massive, like Bitcoin has its complete own use case, right? There are people building stuff on top of it as well. But Bitcoin was like very successful in being, you know, there's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist. Cap supply, right? Like this should be a better monetary system. It's basically like the digital gold thesis where you have the gold standard. And then Ethereum completely pioneered the space in terms of like a turn complete smart contract platform, and has a ton of like extremely great characteristics about it and things that you can build on there, which was impossible just in the general, like in the world before that. And then I think that these kind of newer generations of blockchains that are optimizing for total throughput or for gas fees, or like it unlocks new use cases that, again, they weren't possible for, and they're either tough to do on current projects or just can't be done, right? So something that like we're focusing on a lot early on Monad is this idea of like a fully on-chain central limit order book that can completely bridge the gap between CeFi execution and DeFi execution. Like right now, the most popular model in DeFi is the AMM, which is great because now you can swap assets in a self-sovereign way in crypto. Like the use case for it is fantastic. But the execution that you're getting is not even close to what you can get on a SEX generally. AMMs are much higher MEV that happens on them. There's less liquidity. People just generally can't, like they provide liquidity, but they're not market making in like a smart way, right? Like $1 million of locked capital in an AMM providing liquidity provides a lot like less like usable liquidity, right? Like there's much worse capital efficiency than $1 million that's being strategically deployed by a market maker on a limit order book, right? Like SEXs all use the limit order book. They have much higher volume because that's where market makers know that they have edge and they can provide a lot of like actionable liquidity. Up until now, basically been impossible to do on chain in the EVM ecosystem. And we think that that's going to be like a massive use case, right? It's really just like the hardest part in the beginning is getting liquidity there. But you should be able to have a like CeFi type efficiency in a completely decentralized manner. And we think that should change DeFi in the EVM ecosystem. And we're really excited to see where that goes.
100%. I think, yeah, what you guys are building is super unique, especially in the EVM ecosystem, being able to redesign the entire EVM from the ground up, but also be backwards compatible. Having the high throughput, having the parallelization, it's going to be pretty cool once it comes to life. But maybe we can just kind of keep this show on the shorter side, kind of wrap this one up as like the first test. We will be doing these at least weekly, expanding upon them, talking about high throughput ecosystems, the applications that you can uniquely build on top of these ecosystems, having guests. So if anybody's that is watching or has any comments, wants to see certain guests, just tag any of us and let us know.
Yeah, no, it's been a great show. I think this is going to be, part news, part ecosystem focused dives, and honestly, just whatever is relevant in the crypto sphere, we're going to be covering it here, giving our takes, hopefully good ones. But would love to have some guests on and, just broaden the discussion. I think there's a ton of interesting things going on in crypto that, the prices don't necessarily reflect. And I think this is the most interesting time to be learning, be expanding your network, and just generally consuming content, right? We're preparing for, an exciting few years ahead of us. And I think the show is well timed.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like solid proof of concept, right? I haven't, like you said, Logan, I haven't seen people streaming directly to X.com. So yeah, excited to see
X.com. Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.